welcome to this week's video. This week I thought it'd be really fun to show you 5 really fun ways to fill a sketchbook. Now, I know the frustrations of having a sketchbook and trying to fill it out. I know how difficult it is when you get art block or you're struggling to draw, and these are really fun ways that you can use to bulk out your sketchbook and get some practice in. So I have 2 sketchbooks here. My black one is the Strathmore mixed media sketchbook, and the other one that I have here is the Mossery mixed media sketchbook. Out of the 2, if I'm honest, the Strathmore sketchbook, I absolutely love the paper in that, but I also really do like the Mossery sketchbook, but for alcohol pens. I think the Mossery one handles alcohol pens better, but the Strathmore handles wet media better. Anyway, so the first suggestion that I have is good old study work. Study work is an excellent way to sort of like branch out and understand the fundamentals of what it is that you are drawing. And if you can't get outside, which if I'm honest, the best references will always be actually looking at something and studying it properly, I actually recommend some books. I have these 2 here, Wildflowers, which is gorgeous, like sort of already watercolor painted waterflowers, and this field guide to mushrooms. There's a few other books that you can look at which will really help you break down the fundamentals, but everything looks better when you actually study from real life. This helps you understand how shapes can be broken down, and it can also help you have a better understanding how you can break down those shapes to apply it to your illustrations in general. Some fantastic sites that I actually use for posing is Pose Maniacs, Senshi Stock, and there is a wealth of fantastic people out there who do a whole book of references. If you are ever wondering where to find them, literally there are people on TikTok that do live references. There are people up on Twitter who share it. Instagram, there are people who dedicate their time to doing references for artists. Another good thing to do is to go outside and study the product itself. So for example, I am really into doing flowers, and I really love studying those in general. I really like this book I've got. This is quite an old book. This is the Wildflowers of Britain and Northern Europe. I really love how everything is painted in here, and I try to replicate that sort of style with this in general. Study work is a really good way to fill out a sketchbook because it's understanding the fundamentals so that you can break them down into future things. This is fantastic if you want to do backgrounds, if you want to work on areas that you are weak in, and a sketchbook is there to show your workings out. It's much like when you are doing maths or when you are doing science, you have to show your research before you get to the finalized product. Now, I'm terrible at doing this. I sometimes forget to do study work, and so if I'm really struggling, I find that study work is an excellent way to sort of take a step back and just go, okay, so for a few hours today we are going to do some study work. I know some people will go, I don't really want to, that seems like a lot of overall a lot of work, but it does help, and I'm not going to sit here and lecture you or anything like that, but it's an excellent way to fill up those pages in the sketchbook, and they don't have to be perfect. Practice makes perfect. The more you come to understand how something looks, how something breaks down, the better that you can apply it to in your work. And I had a lot of fun doing this. They're not perfect in any way, shape or form. I think the most successful one has to be those forget-me-nots. But the next suggestion that I'm going to have kind of falls within study work, and this is my suggestion number 2, and this is to fill a page with an animal. Now, I live near a absolutely I live quite next to quite a few wonderful like wildlife areas. You've got your pigeons. Yes, that's beautiful. Look at that pigeon strut. Yes, we've got quite a few here. They're quite fancy boys. We've got some beautiful geese. And look at those ducks, and we have a lot of seagulls as well, and we have squirrels and everything. And I love just taking a sketchbook page and filling it entirely with one animal. Now this can break into study work as well, but what you can do is something that I really like to do is I like to do like one realistic sketch of the animal and then try and re-break that down into my own style. I've done this a few times in my sketchbooks in the past, and if you have seen my sketchbooks before, you would know that I love to draw animals, and birds are like one of my favorite things to do. I find that they have very similar shapes, but they break down slightly differently, and that is just I just love to see like how that all breaks down and has a little bit of fun. So what I do is sometimes I will take my sketchbook outside and I will find an animal and I will break down those shapes and I will recreate that in my own style. This is a really, really fun exercise in not only study work but how to break away from those study works and do it in your own style. Plus, when you're filling an entire page with an animal, you can get some really goofy poses, like some really goofy ones. As I was watching these birds, some of them were just posing for the camera as if like they had known their entire life that they were there for that moment, and it was kind of funny just to see the creatures like sort of like how they would behave and stuff. And I found that these particular seagulls, I don't know the name of them off the top of my head, but they have like this funny little brown topped head, and they have this fantastic like sassy look to them. And when they open their mouths and their beaks, it has like their beaks are like a sort of C shape where you would think like there wouldn't be any skin connecting between them. They were like open and look like this C shape, and it made me laugh. I'm very childish, I know. I thought they were absolutely hilarious. Oh dear. And in particular, this one seagull kept posing for me. Let me show you.
This guy right here is being such a model. Look at him. Look at them. Ugh. Pose for me, baby. Yes.
What an absolute model. And that one ended up being my main reference for a lot of the ones that I was doing. They moved around a lot, so I had to be quick. But it's really fun filling an entire page with animals. I think like if you take one and dedicate time, and then once you've broken down the basic shapes and you then like characterize it, it makes that page a lot of fun to work on, and it really can be a fantastic way to fill up a sketchbook. Take something that you would not normally do, break it down, and have some fun with it. Sketchbooks are there to show your workings out, and you're gonna make mistakes, and of course it's fun.
And now you finished your second page of your sketchbook just by filling it with birds, essentially. Look at all these chickens. There we are.
Okay, so maybe you're not feeling study work or even filling a page with an animal. That is absolutely fine. Here is my third way to fill a sketchbook, and that, of course, is an art challenge. There are hundreds of art challenges that are out there. Marker challenges, palette challenges, limiting your art supplies such as the free marker challenge, one marker challenge, ink only challenge. And of course, my all-time favorite is the blob challenge. The blob challenge is where you basically put down a shape on a piece of paper and turn that shape into something. It could be anything. It's what you see in the shape overall. Not only is this an absolutely excellent exercise in character design or design in general, this is a really, really good way to fill a sketchbook because you're not having to really overthink what it is that you are doing. This is a challenge that I've seen pop up a few times up on people's channels, and I personally haven't done it up on this channel, but I have done it in my sketchbook. Whenever I'm feeling like really unmotivated, I will just like splodge a bit of paint onto a piece of paper or use a highlighter or something like that, and then use that to break down into a fun character design. So you can see here I'm using a little bit of gouache. I'm just putting down some very simple shapes, nothing in particular in mind. I'm just letting the brush go bleh, right? And after I've let them dry, I've just gone over with line art. That is all I've done. It's not an extensive exercise. At most it will probably take you about half an hour to sort of like, as for paint drawing, and to work it out. And if you're working in pen, this means that once you've made a mistake, that mistake is a part of the drawing. This isn't necessarily something you have to do for the challenge. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Working in pen, biro, just a simple like ink pen that you would use when taking notes, means that you, once you make a mistake, that mistake is there permanently and it becomes a part of the drawing. I find this really fun and a sort of like challenge to accept the mistakes that are within the drawing itself. Guess what? Yet again, none of these are going to be perfect because it's all about practice and having fun, the fundamentals. This is a really, really fun exercise to sort of like understand like the fun aspect of drawing. It takes you away from what you would normally do and pushes you out of your boundaries. It's just, I can't speak to how much I enjoy doing this. I like challenges. I like limiting myself in certain ways, especially when I'm feeling just really blur. Like at the moment, we're in the middle of a really warm spot here in the UK, and it zaps all motivation. And I mean all motivation from me. I really, really struggle in the heat. And one of the things that I found is just doing stuff like this has been really, really fun. One of the things I do during streams is I take sketch requests and we'll make them into fun little prompts, which will lead on to the next way to fill a sketchbook, but we'll touch on that in a minute. As you can see here, none of the drawings are perfect, but I like some of the concepts. I like some of the ideas. I like the blob kitty in a box. I love like the little ducks swimming next to each other, even though 100% they are terrible. And I like the snake with the hydrangeas. I might reuse that concept at a later date. But that's the thing. It's not perfect and it's there to have fun. We seem to have this stigmatism when it comes to sketchbooks that they need to be absolutely perfect and everything needs to look absolutely fine. And I see people ripping pages out of sketchbooks all the time. And here's the thing, not everything you do is going to be perfect, and that is absolutely fine. And this is what they all look like. And you see, they're not perfect, but they are fun. So we've tried 3 ways. Let's get on to the 4th. Prompts. Prompts or challenge months are something that I actively participate in. And in fact, this sketchbook, the Mastery sketchbook, I told you it would come back into play, is my daily draw prompt sketchbook. This was a prompt list that I originally created. Originally it was just going to be full of random ideas, but I wanted this to be sort of like a concept book. I have 2 sketchbooks. I have a sketchbook which I call my crap book. This is my sketchbook that I fill with all my random doodles, my workings out, and then I have my cleaner sketchbook, which is my Mastery sketchbook, where I will have the more finalized esque concepts. Some of these may be finalized images, some of them are just workings out. And art challenges or prompts or monthly challenges, they are a really good way to fill up a sketchbook. Now, if you are doing a prompt list, you can take your time with it. You can do them at your leisure. Now, originally I started the prompt list as a way to draw daily, and then halfway through that prompt list, hey, Mermaid started. So there was no way I was getting along doing like an art challenge and doing that at the same time. So prompt lists, you can make your way through at any time. And since it is the month of June, it is currently Junicorn, which I'm not currently participating in, but it's where you do an entire month of unicorns. And I wanted to do something that sort of like retrospectively, like, you know, pays homage to that. It's not perfect. In no way is this perfect, but it's a concept that I enjoy. Challenge months, we get this sort of idea in our head that everything needs to be perfect with them, and the matter of fact is, no, it doesn't. The one thing that I get with prompts and drawing daily is it can be extremely overwhelming, and sometimes you don't have time to dedicate to, you know, a whole month of drawing every single day. Some days you don't have time to draw every single day. Like when I do this full time, this is my full-time job, and some days I have just spent like doing admin, packing orders, ordering stock, making stock. Like I don't have time to draw, which sounds really silly because it is my full-time job, but it's because it's my full-time job that I don't get to draw every single day. Now, I personally like monthly challenges. I love drawing daily with daily challenges because I spend like an hour or two a day. The trick is with a monthly challenge is to dedicate an amount of time to it. By dedicating an amount of time to it, you are forcing yourself to work within that schedule, and say it could be your warm-up for the day. Prompts are a really good way to fill a sketchbook, and if you wanted to do like a dedicated prompt sketchbook, you could totally do that. But remember, mistakes can be made, and you should accept the mistakes that you make because mistakes are a part of the illustration. A good way to understand where something wrong is an illustration, I find, is like sometimes I'll finish an illustration and I'll look at it afterwards and I'm like, that's where my mistakes were had. And that's a really fun way to look at it. Look at them as concepts that you can turn into finalized pieces. Sketchbooks are just there to work out, and that's it. Now onto my fifth and final way to fill a sketchbook, and this is one of my favorites, and that's experimenting with materials. Now you can have many things that you can experiment with. Maybe you just got some new paints and you want to try them out. Maybe you got some new scrapbook materials and you want to do that. My favorite way to fill up a sketchbook is the scrapbook method. Oh, I have a lot of fun with that. So I have a bit of scrapbook paper here that I just found them in the pound shop. I also have some offcuts of stickers that didn't quite, cut quite right, and some leftovers for some Patreon stuff. I also have washi tape, and so what I do is I start off with a sketch. I build up the concept around the sketch. I will start off as a simple illustration and say, this illustration isn't really working. I'm not really happy with how it's turning out. I will then use the scrapbook method. The scrapbook method, you essentially build up around the illustration to make the illustration more appealing. Now, there is going to be pages in your sketchbook where you absolutely hate the drawing, but then you can dress up the drawing by using the scrapbook method. It's so much fun. So I'm just gonna do a quick sketch here. It's gonna be nothing fancy in any way, shape or form. It's just gonna be a witch. Surprise, surprise, it's another witch. I mean, what can I say? I just find them enchanting. So after I've done my quick sketch of my witch, I and see, look, for example, that hair's over the eye. I'm not quite happy with that. How can we make this page that I'm not happy with seem a little bit fancier? So I've got this butterfly stock paper here. As you can see, I'm cutting out some butterflies and I'm ripping up some paper, and I'm going to make this illustration go from something I just like to something that I've gone, hey, this page is kind of cool. Now, here's the thing. When you do a sketchbook, it's going to be filled with ideas. It's going to be filled with concepts. It's going to be filled with mistakes. And I know that can be very, very difficult to look upon your mistakes and understand what you were thinking at the time. And I have pages in my sketchbook where I look at them and go, I absolutely hate this page, quite frankly. And this is a really fun way to say, if you just have in the middle of a page like one sketch where you're going, I kind of like it, but I haven't really got enough room on the rest of the paper to really flesh out the idea. This is a really good way to sort of like make that page that you disliked into a page that you kind of like. Now, experimenting with materials, as much as everything else that I've suggested in this video, is a fantastic way to sort of like branch out from that dreaded art block. Art block burnout, it isn't fun. It weighs down on you heavily and it makes you feel heavily unmotivated. It's tiring, it's exhausting, and I've experienced quite a bit of burnout. In fact, that's why I took a break from doing YouTube for a bit, because I was really, really struggling. I really was. And taking a break is just as important. It really is. If your body is telling you, hey, I don't want to do this, I physically can't do this, taking a step away and taking some time for yourself is just as important. For example, some days I physically can't bring myself to draw. So I will do things that aren't drawing. I'll research. I will look into things. I will, say, for example, for this channel, I have gone through and I've looked at different things. I'm currently working on a new intro. There's so much that you can do that doesn't necessarily need to be art. And like I've said this before, art is my full-time job, and there are days where I'm like, I really don't want to draw. I can't bring myself to do this, and that is okay. Taking a break for you and your mental health and your physical health is like just as important as it is filling that sketchbook. And if you're feeling unmotivated, like, hey, I felt unmotivated a lot of times, these are just really fun ways to make filling that sketchbook feel a little bit more, I don't know, fun. You'll have to let me know your favorite methods of filling a sketchbook. You'll have to show me, like, if you tag me up on Instagram, on Twitter, or share your art in the Discord. Sketchbooks are sketchbooks, like, and they're meant to be there to show workings out. And I know I've done it before where I've showed these beautiful sketchbooks all with filled illustrations, but they're my clean sketchbooks. My real sketchbooks are just undecipherable scribbles that make sense to me but might not make sense to anyone else, because I'm thumbnailing, I'm working out ideas, I'm concepting, I'm experimenting with materials, and it may not look great because it's an experiment with materials, and those times they look awful. But that's okay. It's absolutely fine to do that, to have fun and try out different things. And maybe you've got a sketchbook and the paper doesn't quite work for the material that you're playing with. That's okay. Try something different in that sketchbook. I find that cartridge sketchbooks, while marker work isn't great in them because it feathers like crazy, or watercolors make the pages buckle, that's fine. Honestly, like, have those pages buckle, have those pages like be messed up, because it's a sketchbook. It's not meant to be a finalized product. And sometimes those stuff in sketchbooks, hey, they end up being a finalized product because you're quite proud with how it turned out in that sketchbook, and that's all right. I love the scrapbook method. I find that it turns something that I really disliked into something that I go, hey, this page looks really, really fun, and I had fun doing this. And it's not perfect. No, it really, 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 really is not perfect. But does it really matter if it's not perfect if I had fun with it? Filling a sketchbook can be daunting, and after this I've only got 2 pages left, and it's one of those, it's like, do I fill the sketchbook with stuff that I'm not happy with? Do I fill the sketchbook with experiments, with things that aren't quite finalized pieces? Abso-fudging-lutely do it. Be as creative as you want to be in your sketchbook. Do as much as you physically want to do, because it's gonna get messy and it's gonna be silly, and that's when you can have a lot of fun with a sketchbook. You really can. I hope that some of these ways are fun for you to fill up your sketchbook, fun for you to experiment and try out things that you would not normally do, because I've certainly used a lot of these methods to fill up my sketchbook pages. I use the animal one a lot, I really do. So in case you missed it, my 5 methods: 1, study work; 2, it falls upon study work, but fill a page with an animal. Take that animal and turn it into a character. That's a lot of fun. 3, art challenges, such as palette challenges, blob challenges, marker challenges, limited palette. They're all really fun to do. 4, prompts. This includes monthly or even a list that you can take your time with at your own leisure. And 5, experiment with materials. Whether or not that's just playing around with new paint, whether or not that's scrapbooking and having fun filling out a page. Sketchbooks are your workings. They are there that you turn to when you can't finalize a piece and you just want to doodle something. Fill it with your favorite characters, like doodle your favorite characters, doodle your favorite things, have a look at an animal, study that. Maybe combine creatures with fruits. Like, there's so much that you could do, and if it isn't right, experiment with it. And if it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was, that's all right. At least you tried something and had fun with it. And even if you didn't have fun, you did something, and that's fantastic. Stepping out of your comfort zone can be difficult, and I understand that wholeheartedly. But that's what your sketchbook's there for. It's there to, play around with and have a bit of fun. So after putting a little bit of line work over that sketch that I hated, here is my finalized page. And I really like it. It looks fun and busy, and I really like that. I find that sometimes my pages look a bit too blank, and this is why I like the scrapbook method. We've got all 5 experiments here, and this filled up my sketchbook, and it only took me a couple of hours to do everything. And I really enjoyed that. And taking an hour or 2 a day can just to take a break. It's a lot of fun. You'll have to let me know which is your favourite method to fill up a sketchbook, and if you've got any tips and tricks, please share them in the comment section. I love seeing how people fill up their sketchbook and what they do, and it's just so much fun to experiment and make mistakes. And I know I keep reiterating myself, but I get the feeling that I know how important that is. And look, now I only have 2 pages left of my sketchbook. I'm down to my last final page, and this sketchbook has been a lot of fun. As you can see, I have been doing a lot of experimentation in here and thumbnailing and working out for future projects, and I can't wait to finish this sketchbook because you know what that means, a new sketchbook tour. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Keep drawing, and as always, folks, stay creative.